Welcome back to Box Office Maniacs, and tonight I have a story to tell you actually. And this is a story that I've been wanting to talk about for a long time, and I finally decided to get on here and record it. Okay, so I have been a Doctor Who fan as long as I can remember, and I just decided to get on here and talk about how I became a Doctor Who fan. Now, I think a lot of the new generation has become Doctor Who fans from, of course, the new series, or it's not really new anymore, but the rebooted series when Christopher Eccleston came on as the new Doctor. Now, for me, it's been a long time before that. So I gotta go way back, like almost before time. It's pretty far back, to the point where I kind of knew who Doctor Who was, sort of, because on Channel 9, way back in the day, this is a PBS station, they would show old episodes of Doctor Who. So, I mean, I had seen it. I didn't really know what it was, but I had seen it, and I seen it was a science fiction show, and I, really wasn't paying much attention to it. And I asked my mom about it, and she's like, "Oh yeah, your grandfather loves this show." And I was like, "Wow, really?" Whose name was Alfred Sturzik, loved the show, and I would go over to his house, because at this time we were living in a city, and he lived probably about 9 houses down from us, and I would walk down the street and visit him all the time. We'd play cards and rummy and whatnot, and he would have Doctor Who on there on his TV, and he would have a little table, and he had I think it was black and white, it might have been color, sitting there on his living room table, and I remember him watching Doctor Who, and that is my earliest memory of the Doctor, was my grandfather watching it. So again, I used to watch it here and there, but I wasn't a huge fan of it. We moved from the city out to the county, and at some point between that transition, I was watching Doctor Who at that point, because again, it was still on Channel 9, and it was on real late at night, because I started becoming a Red Dwarf fan as well. And what it was they would show Red Dwarf, and then they'd show Outer Limits, and then they would show Doctor Who. And it was just this amazing block of shows, and that's how I became a Red Dwarf fan. That's how I became a fan of the original Outer Limits, and a fan of Doctor Who all at the same time, because they would show all these 3 shows, and I would sit there every single night and start watching Doctor Who. But it wasn't until one particular episode that I became the Doctor Who fan that I am now. And my mom watched Doctor Who as well, and of course she knows Tom Baker. Now, Tom Baker, when you're a Doctor Who fan, everybody always asks you, who was your first Doctor? Who's your first Doctor? Well, for me, it had to be Tom Baker, because he was the one that I fell in love with. He was my first Doctor, because he was the one that I used to sit up until midnight in my bedroom watching every night, because he was on every single night, and I became a huge fan of his. Then there was a storyline that actually started called The Key to Time. Now, this is, again, one of my fondest memories that I have of Doctor Who, is my mom and I sitting at her kitchen table watching, I think it was an old black and white TV. It was only about this big. I don't know why we sat there and watched that. But every night, the Doctor Who would come on, and then I think it came on like at 8:30 or 9. It wasn't like midnight like it was. I think it got pushed up. And they were showing The Key to Time. Now, it was a continuing series. It was, every episode continued to the next episode. And that's when my real fandom came in for Doctor Who. That's when I instantly became the Doctor Who fan that I am still today. I absolutely loved The Key to Time. And again, sitting there every night watching with my mom was just so awesome. After that, I started realizing that, Tom Baker wasn't the only Doctor, that there were other Doctors out there. The other one they used to show on Channel 9 all the time was Sylvester McCoy. Wasn't a real big fan of his, I can tell you. I just didn't like his look. I didn't like his umbrella, his question. I just did not like him that much. It was basically him and Tom Baker. They showed all the time, just them two. Once in a great while, they would show another Doctor, but not that much. Now, as for the earlier Doctors, like the black and white episodes, until they just started showing them recently, I had never seen any of those. But they're still good. I mean, they were the ones that I was watching on, I believe it was Twitch. They were showing them on, and they were showing all the episodes. It was good. I mean, they were the Doctor, and I mean, they weren't bad. But my coming into the Doctor was the Tom Baker years. Now, all these years later, they stopped showing the Doctor. Channel 9 quit showing it. Nothing out there. It was sort of like the calm between the Star Wars movies, you know, before the new Star Wars movies came out. There was nothing. If you were a Star Wars fan, you were really hard up to find any Star Wars anything, and when you did, you're like, oh my god, it's Star Wars, you know. It was kind of like with me and Doctor Who. There was just nothing. There was nothing out there. So then I know they tried to bring the Doctor back at one point, and I think it was a sci-fi special or something, or at least showed it on the Sci-Fi Channel. So I watched it and was not impressed by it. I was just like, oh great, this is what they're doing with the new Doctor. Whatever. Then another couple years passed, and I was sitting there on the couch, and my mom calls me. Well, you know, there's a new Doctor Who on. I was like, another one, really? Because I was thinking, you know, they're just trying to bring back the series, and it's not going to be good. It's just going to be this lame storyline and a character and whatever. That's what I was thinking. I was like, it's not going to be Doctor Who. I turned it on, and there it was. There was Christopher Eccleston as the Doctor, and I watched the first episode, and I'm like, I said, oh my god, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about this. I was thinking, oh my god, they did it. They're bringing back the Doctor. And then I called downstairs, my wife was downstairs, and I was like, Becky, you need to come up here and watch this, like right now. And she comes up, she's like, what is it? I said, they're bringing back the Doctor. I mean, because I never really talked about Doctor Who either. It wasn't one of those things I talked about all the time because there was nothing there to talk about. And she's like, well, I don't know anything about Doctor Who, you know. I said, you need to watch this. Because when I saw that first episode, they showed the first episode and the second episode. And when I got through about half of the second episode, I stopped it. And I said, they're doing it. They're bringing back the Doctor, and it's awesome. Literally, I mean, I'm just getting goosebumps the whole time talking about this. This is how amazing it was to me. Finally getting back something that I loved so much, you know, in my childhood and growing up all these years. And here it is again, and they're actually doing it justice. And I was like, oh, wow. So she sat down and watched the first 2 episodes, and she's like, oh, okay. Then, you know, the next week they showed more episodes, and she got into it. And it was, for me, one of the most amazing things is introducing my wife to the Doctor. And through the whole first season, they would show something, and I'm like, oh my god, it's a Cyberman! She's like, I don't know what that is, don't tell me what it is. I was like, oh, they're showing the helmet! You know, I was like all excited about it. Because they were showing all, and she didn't know what it was. I was like, I can't believe they're bringing it back! And then I was like, I mean, I was super stoked. And now she's a huge Doctor Who fan, obviously. She's helping me build the TARDIS and everything. And I am building a TARDIS, so that's the other thing I didn't really mention. But my TARDIS isn't here on the channel if you want to see me build it. Then, you know, at the end of the first season, we didn't know what to expect. We didn't have no idea. And then, of course, he regenerates. And all of a sudden, my wife was like, what's going on? And I was like, well, you know, I said, now you're going to get a new Doctor, which I didn't expect them to do it, you know, that soon. I guess Christopher Eccleston, who was a really good Doctor, I mean, it was a really good season, only signed on to bring him back, and then, of course, David Tennant took over the role as the Doctor. So by the second season, once David Tennant came into that role, that was it. It was some of the best years of television for me in my life. It really was. I mean, it's like, I'm getting a little emotional here. I'm not telling you, I'm getting a little emotional. I'm going to try to keep it together. But yeah, it was literally, it was, David Tennant was the Doctor. He became the Doctor, and he was the Doctor. I mean, there was nothing else to say about him except for that's the point where I think the Doctor Who exploded. It just blew up. Everybody, you know, the teenagers and the 20-somethings and the 30-somethings and the 50-somethings and anyone in the science fiction finally didn't know who the Doctor was, finally found out who the Doctor was, and that was it. Tennant really just brought the Doctor home to everybody. He made it more or less, once again, a phenomenon. And that's what it was, because he was one of the greatest Doctors ever. I mean, next to Tom Baker, he would be my first Doctor. And I'd say, you know, even though Eccleston was my wife's first Doctor, when you get to Tennant and you realize how great he was and how great these stories were, and how they show the Daleks for the first time, and I was flipping out. I was just going absolutely crazy when that happened. All those seasons, I think he did like 5 seasons or something like that. I don't remember how many seasons he actually did. But yeah, I mean, it was one of those things that I was laughing through the episodes. I was hiding under the sheets during the Blink episodes. You know, those were just unbelievable. We watched that, and the point when we were watching that, we knew what it was. I mean, we knew we were watching something that was a classic. That was it. I mean, when it was over, we were just sitting there stunned. History is made with that episode. It was so good. And then, of course, Tennant decided not to be the Doctor anymore, and that was just crushing. It was so upsetting. I was like, nope, nobody's ever going to be able to replace Tennant. No one's ever going to do it. All those episodes with the Doctor, with Tennant, all those years he was on, I laughed. You know, like I said, I hid under my sheets. And even there were so many emotional episodes. I got so emotional watching some of these episodes. Of course, the last one was so hard to watch. It was just wrenching. It was wrenching to watch that last episode. So then, after David Tennant, Matt Smith showed up, and everybody was like, who's this guy? I mean, who's Matt Smith? And he had a weird looking head. He did. He just looked weird. And after the first season, I wasn't a fan. I was just like, all right, well, you know, we had Tennant, you know, that was good years. But then pretty much after the first season, Matt Smith kind of grew on me, and he became like a super popular Doctor for some reason. I don't know why, but he did. He was super popular. We went to Dragon Con that year. Everybody was dressed up as Matt Smith. Everybody had the fez on. Everybody was, you know, Matt Smith, dressed up as him. Everybody, men, women, kids, everybody was Matt Smith that year at Dragon Con. And Matt Smith actually made a good Doctor. He did. He was a really good Doctor. He wasn't as good as Tennant in any shape, form, or whatever. He was not the Tennant Doctor. But he did. He did a great job. Once you got to know him, he was a really, really good Doctor. At some point between Matt Smith and David Tennant, I decided to get this for my wife, and this is the DVD, actually, of The Key to Time, which is Tom Baker. And I wanted her to see what made me the Doctor Who fan, and this was it. And it was really just so much of it. And this is the first time she's ever seen Tom Baker, was The Key to Time, and it was so much fun going back and watching this with her. It was just a blast. So then, once Matt Smith decided to leave, I was like, okay, you got the role of a lifetime here. And I think the actors themselves decided to step away. They're like, okay, well, you know, I've had enough, I'm going. So once he left, of course, Peter Capaldi came in. And as soon as I saw him, I was like, wow. You know, he's an older guy, obviously. He had gray hair. And they decided to go with the older Doctor Who, which made all these young fans of the Doctor not really understanding that the first 3 or 4 Doctors were probably in their 60s and 70s. That they were trying to go back to the roots of the original Doctor. I loved it. I loved that idea. I loved the look of him. I loved his character. I loved everything about him. The only thing I didn't like was the writing. I guess the writers couldn't place him as Doctor Who. Like the first season was not very, just like Matt Smith, it takes him a while to get into the role, to roll into that character. And the first season wasn't that great. I liked him as the Doctor. It just was something not there. There was something that, it was missing something. Then you get into the second season with him. It's a little bit better. And the second season was actually pretty good. And you could tell that he was trying to become himself, trying to become the Doctor. And then you hit the third season, and this was it. This was the great season of Doctor Who. It's probably one of the best seasons, Tennant-wise or anybody, that they ever had. That third season with Peter Capaldi, oh my God, he grew his hair long, and it looked fantastic. And that's really what he needed. He had that real short haircut. She didn't really work for him, but once he got his hair longer, he was a Doctor. And that whole third season he was in was just spectacular, absolutely amazing. And then all of a sudden, I'm not going to be the Doctor anymore. I'm just like, are you kidding me? Once I started loving him and loving him as the Doctor, nope, bye, I'm not the Doctor anymore. I was just like, oh, wow, 3 seasons we got from him. So now, of course, then there was the big announcement for the new Doctor coming. And everybody had their ideas and speculations, and, you know, everybody thought they knew who it was going to be. And then they showed the actual new Doctor, I think there was just, you could hear the split, just between the Doctor Who fans, because all these so-called die-hard Doctor Who fans saw that the new Doctor is going to be a woman, and they're like, oh my god, they destroyed Doctor Who, I'm not going to watch it anymore, no way am I watching a woman play Doctor Who. And then the actual real fans are like, bring it on, because I can't wait to see what's going to happen now. So this is where this comes down to this here. So if you are so single-minded that you can't accept a woman to be the Doctor, then you were never really a Doctor Who fan, because the Doctor can regenerate to whatever he or she feels like regenerating into. And that's what's been fun with the Doctor over all these years, is the Doctor can regenerate. And if you don't know, and if you're watching this and you have no idea who Doctor Who is, he is a Time Lord. And he travels through time in an old British police box, which I'm currently building. And he, after a while, if he gets hurt or something happens to him, he regenerates. And he regenerates into a new actor, which is how they've been, keeping this show on as long as they have. And it's a brilliant idea. And then you get a fresh actor and you get a fresh, whole new perspective. And now, this coming season, it's going to be a woman. And I think it's spectacular. I think it's great. I cannot wait to see what she does with the role. And anyone who just bails out, again, you can say whatever you want to me, but they're not true Doctor Who fans. They're just idiots, is what they are. I know people who will not play Tomb Raider because they don't want to play a woman in a video game. They're manly guys. Oh, I'm not playing a woman in a video game. Stupidity. That's completely stupid. And things like that just make me angry. Or if there's a movie that has a female lead as an action hero, well, I'm not going to go see that movie because that woman, she's beating up all these guys. Or stupid stuff. Stupid stuff like that is just idiotic. And there are, of course, a legion of female fans out there, because I've seen them at Dragon Con. All these women dressed up as, Matt Smith or David Tennant. Not so many Peter Capaldis, but mostly that. And now they have their own Doctor. So all of us guys have had, the male Doctor through all these years. Now they have their own Doctor, who's still my Doctor as much as anyone else was. Because it's still the Doctor. And I don't understand how fans can just be in an uproar about that. I think it's the stupidest thing ever. Before I end this video, I'm going to say when the new series comes on, I'm going to do something I've never done before, is I'm going to get on here and review each and every episode, because it is a groundbreaking thing that's going on here. Never been done in all these years that Doctor Who's been on, and I think it's time for me to talk about the Doctor and get on here and review every episode once it starts airing. Now, one of our Maniacs on here is currently excited about the new Doctor because he has never watched any of the other Doctors before. Now that there's a female Doctor, he is actually getting into the Doctor Who. He's never watched any of them before. It'd be really interesting, and I can't wait to take that journey with him and hear what he has to say about all the Doctors. But he's very excited about the choice for the new one, and I think that is spectacular. And hopefully there's other fans out there who never watched Doctor Who might be feeling the same way. And he wrote something on Facebook that I thought was just incredible. And I want to read that to you. I asked him if it was okay, and he said it was fine. Go ahead and read it on my channel. So I'm actually going to have my wife read it for you. So this is his thoughts about the new Doctor, and 100% my thoughts about the new Doctor as well. And my thoughts also about all these fans who are not watching a show anymore. All is sort of mixed up in this amazing thing that Robert wrote, is his name. So here you go. This is what one of our Maniacs thought, who's never even watched the Doctor, who's really excited about starting this amazing journey that he's going to absolutely love once he gets into it. Thank you, Robert, for letting me share this with everybody. And once again, when the new Doctor comes on, I will be on here every week, and I will be giving you a brand new review. Hopefully you enjoyed this review. I had really a great time finally bringing you how I became the Doctor Who fan that I am today. And here it is. Here is what Robert wrote enjoy it, and I will see you next time here on Box Office Maniacs.
Lately, I've been thinking about Doctor Who, and I say this as someone who never watched a single episode or was interested in it. A little maybe, but as a collector of Blu-ray, the prices held me back. Anyway, it was never enough to make me join the Doctor Who fandom. But then I saw Jodie Whittaker and I thought, she looks interesting. And by interesting, I mean that just her appearance and her costume style just looks fascinating. Nonetheless, I have to admit that I would prefer to see more women in leading sci-fi/fantasy/action roles, but it happens so often that you get the usual suspects, aka guys, in the leading parts of these genres, and that is, at a certain point, tiring. I don't want women out of political overcorrectness. That would indicate that someone is interested only in the political message, not in what is behind it, but because it would just be great to see more girls and women in such roles. Some may think, what's the fuss, and don't really care about gender or ethnicity of a character, but please don't roll your eyes. I just wanted to say this now being at the doorstep of a new fandom, although the first backlash was a year ago. Of course, there is a minority that is opposed to the idea of a woman in the leading role because they, for example, fear that their universe and safe space as males within the fandom is in danger. Although we should not downplay those minorities and their thinking because it's poisonous. These people, mostly guys, a few gals, ignore the fact that there are other nerds in the world. Those who feel underrepresented, nerds that are female, trans, of color, you name it, or just want something different. What about them? To be a nerd isn't a white male privilege. In any way, a female lead in series and movies of these genres is also an opportunity for a fandom when the fiction that it's based on recreates or regenerates itself. Why? Because you lose some fans, but you also gain new ones. In this case, girls and women and guys like me who now want to watch the new, but also the old ones. Think of it this way. This casting decision created at least one new, soon-to-be fan of a 55-year-old journey.